Right now on Upfront.
The first fireworks.
It means that there's been a breakdown in leadership.
Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley facing new criticism in his bid for governor.
I'm not going to be a part of a healthcare scandal, I'll tell you that right now.
The major mistake in Milwaukee County and questions about who's to blame.
To help us correct a significant error.
Now Crowley, the target and the top fundraiser among Democrats, is here to respond.
We took swift action as we needed to do.
The state of the race, and will the state's largest county cooperate with ICE? We'll get to it all. Then Charles Franklin with a new nationwide poll on immigration, ICE, and the shootings in Minnesota.
Bleak outlook.
We're falling behind, and this is kind of a warning.
The new report from Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce declaring Wisconsin is falling behind. WMC President and CEO Kurt Bauer is standing by and nationalizing elections.
If a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it.
President Donald Trump's pitch to Republicans.
It's sort of a preposterous claim.
The reaction here in Wisconsin just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The first clashes in the Democratic primary for governor coming after Milwaukee County failed to renew its health insurance contract for county employees.
Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez calling it a breakdown in leadership, targeting Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. And now Crowley, the top fundraiser so far among Democrats, is here to respond in just moments.
How do we get to the point where we're in a contract that's like expired?
The revelations coming just more than a week ago. Milwaukee County failing to renew its health insurance contract for employees and retirees.
If UHC were to walk away from the county, we would really have no ability to process those claims.
Thursday, the county board racing to approve a 5-year extension with United Healthcare that county officials warned lacked oversight, negotiating power, and could lead to rising costs. Supervisors saying they're appalled, calling the situation, quote, extremely alarming.
The red flags everywhere are incredibly alarming. I think we're moving into damage control mode.
Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley firing the county's HR benefits director this past week. Yet for county supervisors, looming questions remain. Who's to blame and what the fallout looks like in the months and years ahead.
With that, let's bring in Milwaukee County Executive, a Democratic candidate for governor, David Crowley. County Executive, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Let's start with this health care issue. I'm curious what responsibility you take in the fact that these contracts weren't initially renewed.
I want to be very clear. No one within no Milwaukee County employee, no retiree lost their health care coverage during this time. Coverage did not lapse. We had a director level employee who committed, terminated a serious offense, and it was responsible to their core responsibilities in making sure that this contract went through. And so I truly believe that we held them accountable, and I believe it's standard for any government or any business that believes in transparency, that believes in accountability and competence, that they hold these types of employees to a high standard. And so moving forward, we're making sure to put additional safeguards in place across multiple agencies to make sure something like this never happens again.
As with everything, this has seeped into the race for governor. Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez was asked about this week. Take a listen to what she said.
I think it is scary and unfortunate that happened, and it means that there's been a breakdown in leadership, that is something that could happen. I've actually never heard of that, and so I imagine folks within Milwaukee County are pretty nervous.
A breakdown in leadership. I'm curious your response to that.
Look, I think that it's easy for anyone to say what they would or would not do when they've never had the responsibility of actually governing. Lieutenant Governor Rodriguez, just like any other candidate, they've never held the responsibility of governing or been accountable with having to actually implement policies. And so, you know, for me, it's really about having folks really understand that this is about leadership. And we've not only fixed the problem, we resolved the problem, and moving forward, we're putting safeguards in place. And this is the type of executive leadership we not only need in Milwaukee County, but across the state of Wisconsin.
To critics or voters out there who might be watching and saying, well, listen, if he doesn't know what's going on at the county or can't control business in the county, how can he run the state of Wisconsin? You would tell them what?
I would say, look, I'm ready to run the state of Wisconsin. I could look Wisconsin voters in the face and say, look, this is exactly what legislative leadership and executive leadership looks like. When we seen the problem, we fixed the problem. You know, we addressed it in a transparent way in public, and we made sure to resolve it and put those safeguards in place. And that's exactly how we'll govern moving forward, making sure to address and fix problems moving forward.
Let's talk about the state of the race. You were the top fundraiser among Democrats, among the 7+ candidates in the race. Who's the front runner in this primary right now?
Well, I'm proud to be the top fundraiser on the Democratic side of this race. And I think it really shows a reflection of the broad grassroots coalition that we're building across this state. And this is the type of grassroots organizing that we need to win the primary as well as the general election. And so I think that this is a wide open race, and having the most amount of money in the campaign chest absolutely helps. But it's about continuously talking to as many voters as possible across the state and really addressing the needs that matter most to them.
I'm curious what you make of Mandela Barnes continuing to say he's only focused on Tom Tiffany, not really going to worry about the primary.
Well, we have a primary election, and if you're not focusing on those primary voters and talking to them about the options that they have, quite frankly, it seems as if you're not paying attention to them. But our job is to go out and talk about the policies that matter most to all of us, and that's what we're focused on in this campaign.
Let's talk about ICE and immigration and the fallout we're seeing from Minnesota. We've seen a number of proposals from some of the other candidates. Sarah Rodriguez says, let's attempt to ban arrests in some public places. Joel Brennan has said, let's create a commission or something like that to document ICE actions. Tom Tiffany has said, we will fully cooperate with ICE. I'm curious what you would do as governor.
Well, as governor, but even as Milwaukee County executive, we've already started to put in place and making sure that everyone knows their rights. As we look at all of us, watch TV and see what's happening in Minneapolis, across this state, across this country, it is disheartening, it's scary, and there are a lot of people who are afraid. But my expectations are really simple. It is my expectation that local law enforcement officers are there to protect the public. They are not to be extensions in carrying out and in being employed to carry out the Trump's federal immigration agenda. We need to be focused on making sure that we're protecting the public and holding people accountable and making sure they're following all of our laws, and that includes our federal agents.
We're seeing more counties signing up and saying, yes, we're going to partner with ICE when it comes to detainers in county jails. Since 2018, Milwaukee County says, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to assist ICE with detainers in the jail. Would you like to see that change?
No, I think that the sheriff's office have been operating under their policy for many, many years. And not only our sheriff's office, but again, the expectation for our local law enforcement should be to focus on protecting local communities that they were employed to do. We didn't bring these local law enforcement officers to become federal agents. And so it's just important that we focus on protecting our communities because we got things that we're dealing with on an everyday basis.
What about this argument from the Trump administration that arrests in the jail are much safer than having to do it out on the streets?
Arrests in the jails that are much safer than having to do it out on the streets? Well, you know, you would have to talk to our sheriff's office related to who's actually in our jails. But when you think about immigrants who may be committing crimes, I think that's extremely, very rare. Here in the state of Wisconsin and across this country. If you want to make communities safer, you need to work with local officials. And, you know, I think that local officials across this country are willing to come to the table, but it's not about going into somebody's house and telling them how dirty and what they need to do in order to fix it. You have to do this in partnership, and unfortunately, we're not seeing that coming out of the President Trump's administration.
Is there any scenario you would partner with ICE?
I don't see any scenario where we would want to partner with ICE because our local law enforcement officials should be focused on protecting our local communities.
When you look at what Tom Homan has said in recent days about this, does this position entice or encourage the Trump administration to, say, surge into Milwaukee County because you won't cooperate?
Well, I'm not sure what it means to really put a target on your back. I think anyone who has stood up to President Trump, and particularly the way that he has employed his ICE officials to go into different communities, is going to put a target on your back. But it is our job to make sure that we're protecting the public, making sure that we're putting safeguards in place to protect our most vulnerable populations, and making sure, again, that our local law enforcement officers are there to help our neighbors when they need it most.
Milwaukee County Executive, Democratic candidate for governor, David Crowley. County Executive, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Other Wisconsin sheriffs are expected to enter new agreements with ICE to better cooperate in county jails. The ACLU is suing, arguing those agreements are illegal. That debate happened right here last week. You can watch it right now on the 12 News YouTube page under the Upfront playlist. Let's bring in Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin. He has a new national poll out. Charles, good to see you. Voters have some strong thoughts about ICE, so let's start with this. 60% of those polled say that they disapprove of how ICE is handling its job. 40% approve. At the same time, 56% say that they still favor deporting immigrants in the country illegally. So take us behind these numbers. What do they tell us?
This is a theme we've been seeing in deportation polling and immigration for a while, that a majority, though it's not a huge majority, but in the mid to upper 50s, say they favor deportations in general. But when you ask about specific details, like how ICE is going about it, that support collapses to just 40% in this poll. One of the big things is who is being deported. In general, deporting immigrants here illegally, that's that 56 or so % approval or support for that. But when you ask, does that include people who've been here for a long time and have no criminal record, on that one, support drops to 44%. So the point here is that there's a lot of variation in how we feel about immigration enforcement. There's a huge majority in favor of deporting criminals, but it drops a lot as you get into details and people who are a bit more sympathetic. And ICE's image is really in quite bad shape right now. I should also say this poll was done entirely after the Renee Good shooting, but about 2/3 of the interviews were done before Alex Preddy was shot.
Yeah, and as we've seen with a number of issues, there is a big political divide here when asking about ICE and immigration enforcement.
Yeah, 80% of Republicans approve of the job ICE is doing. Only 5% of Democrats do. But I think it's fairly important that only 23% of independents approve of the job ICE is doing. We are looking ahead to the midterms, and neither party has a majority just from their base voters. Either party to win in the midterms needs to win a significant share of the independent vote. And on immigration issues, independents are fairly negative.
Yeah, looking ahead to the midterms, where does this issue of immigration fall in terms of importance for voters?
It's fairly high, but it's not the highest issue. Inflation remains easily the most important issue, followed by the economy. Immigration comes in third place with about 14%, saying it's the most important issue for them. We don't distinguish between whether that 14% thinks immigration should be enforced more strongly or whether they're pushing back against the way it's enforced, but just the issue itself. That's down considerably from where it was in 2024.
All right, Charles Franklin, Marquette Law School poll director. Always great to have your insight and analysis. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the new report on Wisconsin's economy, the warning signs from one of the state's largest business associations. Kurt Bauer, president of Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, with us next.